All right. Today we're going to be taking a look at Philippians chapter 2. We're going to jump right in. Philippians 2:1 says, if there be therefore any consolation in Mashiach, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Ruach, if any vows and mercies. You know, and if we just start right here, it causes us to wonder, well, what is he talking about? What do you mean? If there be any consolation in Mashiach? Consolation for what? You know, and what he's speaking to is in reference to chapter 1. You know, so we're going to take a look at what he's actually speaking about. It's found in Philippians 1:29 and 30, you know, where he says, for unto you it is given in the behalf of Mashiach not only to believe on him, but to also suffer for his sake, having the same conflict which he saw in me and now here to be in me. So he's saying, you know, if you have any consolation for the conflict which he saw in me and what you now hear to be in me, if you have any consolation, any comfort, any love, etc. You know, so this is what he's talking about. He's talking about his suffering for Yahshua's sake. You know, and you know, pray you can see that, you know, he says it's given unto you, it is given in the behalf of Mashiach. Not only are we to believe in him, believe on him, but we're also to suffer for his sake. You know, and that's important not to just gloss over, you know, because everybody want to believe, but everybody don't want to suffer. All right? You know, so in verse 30 we see he says, having the same conflict which he saw in me. What conflict did they see in him? You know, in order to answer this question, we have to go to Acts chapter 16. We're going to begin with verse 12 because it gives us the context. It says, and from thence to Philippi. So it tells us right there that where they were on their way to. You know, they left from somewhere and they were going to Philippi. You know, and of course we're looking at the book of Philippians. So this speaks to them. It says, which is the chief city of that part of Macedonia and colony, and we were in that city abiding certain days. Now we're going to fast forward to verse 16. It says, and it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. Goes on to say, and the same followed Paul and us and cried, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High Elohim, which show unto us the way of salvation. And this did she many days. But Paul, having grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee, in the name of Yahushua Mashiach, to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. Continuing on, verses 19 through 24, it says, and when her master saw that the hope of their gains were gone, they caught Paul and Silas, and drew them into the marketplace and unto the rulers, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, these men being Yahudim, do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid stripes upon them, many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Who, having such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in the stocks. Now this is what Apostle Paul was speaking of and saying that the Philippians are to have the same conflict that they saw him having. See, this is important to understand because we're not called to just believe on Messiah only, but also to suffer for his sake. Well, what does that suffering look like? Well, we have a picture right here. You know, Apostle Paul got thrown in jail. That's what it looked like. And then after they threw him in jail, he got beat. Or before they threw him in jail, he got beat. He got taken to the magistrates. Then he got beat. Then he got thrown in jail. Sound like fun, huh? So the conflict. What was the conflict that Paul was faced? It was the conflict of whether or not to do what was right knowing the consequences would likely be ill received. In Apostle Paul's case, it was whether or not to cast the spirit out of the possessed damsel. You know, when we look back, we see verse 16 said, a certain damsel possessed with a spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. So, this damsel brought her masters much gain. And so here it is, Apostle Paul and his crew, they were there, they were preaching and teaching, and she was following behind them, getting on their nerves. She wasn't lying, because they were the servants of the Most High, and they were there to show unto them the way of salvation. And they showed it by getting beaten, thrown in jail. You know, but it says that she did this many days. See, and this was the conflict that Apostle Paul was faced with. You know, rather to cast this spirit out of this certain damsel, knowing that there will be repercussions because she brought much gain to her masters. So he already knew that once he cast that spirit out, there was going to be some problems. And this is why he didn't do it the first day, or the second day, or the third day. But he waited many days, and he was wrestling with this thing. And finally he decided to cast it out. And just as he thought, trouble came. You know, and they rose up against him because their gains were gone. They couldn't make their money off of this damsel anymore. And so they was going to make them pay. And make them pay they did. You know, but the point that I'm making is, this is the type of suffering that we're to suffer from Mashiach. This is the type of conflict that we're to have in ourselves, you know, when we're walking this thing out. There's going to be times when you're going to be having a conflict within yourself as to whether or not you should do the right thing. Sometimes it may be saying the right thing at a certain time, or doing the right thing at a certain time, even when you know it's not going to be well received. This is not an easy thing to do, and it will cause a conflict within you. See, but we're to take a lesson from Apostle Paul and overcome the conflict and do what's right. Amen? Regardless of the circumstances. You know, so this is what Apostle Paul is teaching. This is the type of suffering from the Mashiach Apostle Paul is teaching we ought to have. And if there be any consolation, he's saying to the Philippians, any comfort of love, etc., he asks that they fulfill his joy by doing something. You know, and that's found in Philippians 2:2. It says, fulfill ye my joy that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord and of one mind. So he wants us to be like-minded. He wants us to do the exact same thing. He wants us to stand in the gap for what's right. And even when we know to do what's right for Mashiach's sake is going to bring trouble, we do it anyway. Verse 3 goes on to say, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in the lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than themselves. We ought to esteem others better than ourselves. Not the same as ourselves, but better than ourselves. Amen? You know, he says, let nothing be done to strife or vainglory. What is this word strife? It's arithia, number 2052, speaking to, meaning intrigue, which speaks to make secret plans to do something illicit or detrimental to someone. In other words, he's saying you're not to use the word, you're not to use your position or as a believer of Yah to make secret plans or to plot and plan on someone or something illicit or detrimental. You're not to use our faith in that manner. And you're not to use it for vainglory. This word vainglory is kenodoxia, number 2754, meaning empty glory. That is self-conceit. You know, and some people, they do the things that they do, you know, in the ministry for self-conceit, for vainglory, you know, to pump themselves up. See what I've done. Well, if you're really doing this thing right and you're walking this thing out right, you haven't done anything, but it's Yah in you who's done it all. Amen. Philippians 2, 4, and 5. Look not every man onto his own things, but every man also to the things of others. We're not only to be taking care of ourselves, but we're also to be taking care of other folks in the body. Amen? Amen. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Mashiach Yahushua. See, this is the mind of Yahushua, our Messiah. You know, he came here and he sought not his own. He esteemed others greater than himself. So much so that he laid down his life for them, setting the example of those of us who will follow behind him. He would tell us to pick up our torture stakes and follow him. Well, when they picked up that torture stake, what do you think they were going to do? They were going to be tortured unto the death. Now, in the meantime, betwixt torture and the death, you know, that wasn't all fun and games. Wasn't no fun hanging up on that cross. Wasn't no fun getting beat. Wasn't no fun getting spit on. Someone stabbing thorns in your head. Nailing your hands to the cross and your feet. No, that wasn't fun. You know, but that's what we're to do. We're to nail our hands to our cross. Amen. You know, we're to do the works even though we suffer for them. Nail our feet to the cross. We're to walk his way even though it may be torturous. He showed us the way. We're just to follow. Let me have my first reader read Philippians 2, 6 through 8, please.
Who, being in the form of Elohim, thought it not robbery to be equal with Elohim, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in the fashion as a man, he humbled himself, and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross.
Hallelujah. Okay, so verse 6 told us who being in the form of Elohim thought it not be robbery to be equal with Elohim. You know, let's one get misconstrued or misunderstand, you know, concerning equal, because our word equal in modern day English means to be exactly alike. You know, but this is not what the word equal here means. It's isos. In the Greek number 2470 means to be similar in amount or kind, to be like something. You know, we know from other places in Scripture, you know, that the Father and the Son are not equal. Yochanan 14:28 bears witness to this. It says, "Ye have heard how I said unto you, I go away and come again unto you. If ye loved me, ye will rejoice, because I said, I go unto the Father, for the Father is greater than I." So you see, if one is greater, then they're not exactly equal. Yes, they are alike. They're similar, but they're not equal. Also, Yochanan 10:29, "My Father which gave them me is greater than all." See, there's no one greater than the Father. He's greater than all. And no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hands. Speaking of his ecclesia. You know, in verse 7, it told us that he made himself of no reputation. He took upon him the form of a servant. See, this is the mind of Yahushua. You know, he didn't care about fame and fortune. You know, he made himself of no reputation. Now, with the skill set that he had, or with the works that he was doing, he could have easily made himself the most popular man on the planet. But he didn't. Matter of fact, when he would heal people, he oftentimes told them, "Go and tell no one." Now, we know they did just the opposite. But he told them, you know, "Go and tell no one." That's how humble he was. You know, he took upon him the form of a servant and was made in the likeness of men. You know, don't you know that all of us are made in the likeness of men? You know, we too ought to be servants. And at the end of the day, you're serving someone. You're either serving the Most High or you're serving Hasatan. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Even when you think you're serving yourself, you're serving Hasatan. Because he only has one rule, and that is do as thou wilt. So whenever you do what you think you want to do, outside of the will of the Most High, you're actually doing what he wants you to do. Say lie. So we see verse 8 saying that he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. We're to do likewise. We're to humble ourselves while we're in these flesh bodies. We're to humble them. We're to humble them and force them to be obedient unto the death. We're not to let our bodies dictate what we're going to do when it's against the will of Yah. We're to go where it want to go when it's against the will of Yah. We're to force it into the will of the Most High El. Amen. Luke 9:23 said that he said unto them, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. See, this is what we're to do. We're to deny ourselves, and we're to take up our torture stake, and we're to follow our Messiah. But what does it mean? What does it look like to deny ourselves? Romans 8:13 answers this. It says, for if you live after the flesh, ye shall die. But if you live through the Ruach, do mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. See, this is what God's trying to get us to do. He's trying to get us to deny ourselves, to mortify the deeds of the body, to stop doing the lust of the flesh, to stop giving in to the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, and start living in accordance to the will, way, and purposes of the Most High. Let me have my next reader read verses 9 through 12, please.
Wherefore Elohim also had highly exalted him, and give him a name which is above every name, that at the name of Yeshua every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Yeshua Messiah is Adonai, to the glory of Elohim the Father. Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling.
Hallelujah. Okay, so verse 9 told us, wherefore Elohim has highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name. I want you to know that if we do likewise, if we follow the example that he set for us, if we walk in his will, way, and purposes, and if we pick up our torture stakes and follow him, if we deny ourselves, if we mortify the deeds of our body, that he will also exalt us. He will also give us a name that's high, that's exalted. And he will also have people come before us and give us charge over them. We see here that at one day every tongue should confess that Yahushua Mashiach is Adonai, to the glory of Elohim the Father. Everyone, last time I checked, it meant everyone. It says in the heavens, in the earth, and even below the earth. So that's everyone, everywhere will confess that Yahushua Mashiach is master. Even those who are serving the other guy, and even the other guy himself, gonna confess that Yeshua is master. So he tells us in verse 12 to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. And see, this is a very important thing to understand. See, Apostle Paul is teaching us that we need to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. But, this flies in the face of a very popular doctrine, in which people think that they are already saved. Well, if you're already saved, then why you got to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling? See, Apostle Paul is trying to let us know that, when you accept the Messiah as your Adonai, there's some work to do. Yes, we have to believe on him with our heart and we confess him with our mouth. But there's some work to do. And at the end of the day, when it comes judgment time, the only thing you're going to be judged upon are your works. So Apostle Paul is telling us to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. A lot of people say, Yahshua done it all for you. You don't have to do anything. All you got to do is say this group of magic words. And presto changeo. You saved. Abracadabra. It's over with. It doesn't work that way. We have to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. That's the way it works. This is what Apostle Paul is saying. And I'm going to back up Apostle Paul with some other passages of Scripture. Well, first of all, let's take a look at who Paul is talking to, in case you don't know. Philippians 1:1 says, Paul and Timotheus, the servants of Yahushua Mashiach, to all the saints in Mashiach, Yahushua, which are at Philippi, with the bishops and the deacons. So some people may have been thinking, okay, he was obviously speaking to Gentiles who weren't believers. No, that's not true. He was speaking to the saints in Mashiach, Yahushua. He's speaking to believers, even along with the bishops and the deacons, the leaders. So this is important to understand, because just because you're a saint in Mashiach, just because you're a saint in Messiah Yahushua, even if you're a bishop or a deacon, you still got to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. It's not automatic. You have to put some work in. Now the word teaches that every matter should be established out by 2 to 3 witnesses. So we're going to back this up. Revelation 2:7 says, he that have an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of Elohim. To him that overcometh will I give, he says. So, what happens to those that don't overcome? Will they still get to eat of the tree of life? Of course not. Hence, you need to work it out. Revelation 2:11, he that have an ear, let him hear what the Ruach saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. So what does that say for those who don't overcome? Shall they still not be hurt of the second death? I think not. If they don't overcome, they're going to be hurt by the second death. Revelation 2:26, and he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. So what happens if you don't overcome and you don't keep his works unto the end? Will he still give you power over the nations? Of course not. So you see, we need to overcome and we need to keep his works unto the end. This is what Apostle Paul is trying to teach us. He said, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. You got some work to do. It's great that you believe on him. But then after that, you got some work to do. You got to start humbling yourself. You have to start mortifying your members. You got to start mortifying the deeds of your body. You have to start esteeming others greater than yourself. You have to start seeing not only to yourself, but to others of the body as well. So I encourage you, Work it out. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Don't let nobody tell you that it's already done. Don't let nobody tell that lie to you. Don't let them tell you that you don't need to do anything. That's a lie from the pit of Hades. Let me have my next reader read verses 13 through 18.
For it is Elohim which worketh within you, both to will and to do his good pleasure. Do all things without mutterings, do all things without murmurings and dispute, that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of Elohim, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as a light in the world, holding forth the word of life, that I may rejoice in the day of Messiah, that I have not run in vain, neither labor in vain. Yea, and if I be offered upon the sacrifice and service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with you all. For the same cause also do ye joy and rejoice with me.
Hallelujah. So I don't want to hear anyone talking about they can't do it, what they can't do, what can't be done. See, because verse 13 teaches us, he says, for it is Elohim which worketh in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. So if Elohim is working in you, and there's nothing that he can't do, then there's nothing you can't do with him. You can do his will, because he's in you to bring about his will and to do his good pleasure. So don't let nobody tell you what you can't do, because you can do all things through Messiah who strengthens you. Amen? If Elohim is working with you, how can you not do it? You can do it. That don't mean you will do it. But it's not because you can't do it. That's what I want you to get today. I want you to understand that you can do it because Elohim is in you to help you do it. So you can get it done if you choose to do it. See, that's why the people of Elohim, we're can-do type people. We're not can't-do type people. You need to take can't out your vocabulary once you say that you believe on Yahushua. You need to take can't out your vocabulary because there's nothing that you can't do if he's with you. And if you're talking about doing his will and his good pleasure, he's going to help you do it. So there's nothing that can't be done. He says, do all things without murmurings and disputings, that ye may be blameless and harmless. Now you have to get this, because a lot of us, we do the right thing, but we do it while we grumbling. We do it while we murmuring. We do it while saying, I don't see why we even got to do this. I don't think we got to do this anyway. But I'm just doing it because such and such said. That's the wrong attitude to have. I want you to recall back in Numbers when Israel began to murmur against Yah. Numbers 14:27 said, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmur against me? This is the way Yah looks at you when you're murmuring. He looks at you as evil. Unappreciative. Ignorant. Because you just don't know. Even if you're suffering, it's for your good. He's trying to look out for you. It's like you just trying to stick your hand in the wall socket and somebody trying to keep you from sticking it in there, and you getting mad at them. And for those of us who don't listen, and when they stop trying, they finally stop trying to get you to do it, and they leave, and you stick it in there anyway and get shocked, and then figure out, oh, that's what they was trying to save me from. We don't want this to be your experience with Yah when it comes Judgment Day. You know, so I want you to do the will, way, and purposes of Yah, but do it without murmurings, without disputings.
Hallelujah.
You know, and you need to recognize that he says, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against me. When you murmuring, he takes it personal. You can be murmuring about, oh, Pastor Obadiah said we need to do this, that, and the other. It's not. I ain't saying nothing. I'm just telling you what he said. I'm just teaching the word. I'm just pointing you to what he told you to do. If I'm putting it right before you and we reading it together, don't blame it on me. I don't want to hear your disputings either. But Yah, when he hear it, he going to take it personal. See, this is during this time in Numbers 14:27, they was murmuring and complaining against Moshe and Aaron. But it was the same with all the servants of Yah. When the prophets, when he used to send the prophet to them, they wanted to beat and stone the prophet and all this, kill the prophet, because he's told them what Yah said. Pro-prophet, like, you know, I didn't say it. It's not my words. I'm just a messenger. So you have to understand that yeah, Yah wants you to do it, but he wants you to do it joyfully. He wants you to do it because you want to do it. He don't want you doing it grudgingly. He don't want you doing it while you murmuring and disputing, you know, what he's saying. He take that personal. You know, I don't know if you ever been whooped by him before, but he's really heavy-handed. You don't want to feel that. If you want to get an idea of what it was like, go finish reading Numbers 14 and see what happened after he said that. Verse 16 said, holding forth the word of life, that I may rejoice in the day of Mashiach, that I have not run in vain, neither labored in vain. This is my heart's cry. I'm up here week after week, 2-3 times a week, praying that somebody get it. Praying that I may be able to rejoice in the day of Mashiach, that I haven't run in vain all these years, that I haven't labored in vain. Praying that somebody get it. If it just, I know everybody not going to get it. That's the prayer. I aim for the stars, but I'll be happy to land on the moon. If just a few of you get it, that'll suffice. I just don't want my efforts to be totally in vain. I'm right with Paul on this one. He says, yea, and if I be offered upon the sacrifices and service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with you all. I don't mind laying down my life for you. I'm good with that, as long as you get it. And I won't do it for nothing, you know, but as long as you get it. You know, so that's really important, you know. If Yah said it, that should be enough. That should be reason enough. You know, if people find fault with what not to do in the word, like it's somebody else's word. It's Yah's word. If he your master and he say do it, that should be enough. I just pray somebody get it. Let me have my next reader read verses 19 through 24.
But I trust in the Adonai Yahushua to send Timotheus shortly unto you, that I also may be of good comfort when I know your state. For I have no man like-minded who will naturally care for your state. For all seek their own, not the things which are Yahushua Messiah's. But ye know the proof of him, that, as a son with a father, he hath served with me in the gospel. Him therefore I hope to send presently, so soon as I shall see how it will go with me. But I trust in the Adonai, that I also myself shall come shortly.
Hallelujah. So he says he's going to send Timotheus. Timotheus' name means honoring Elohim, dear to Elohim. So he's going to send someone that's honoring Elohim to them, someone that's dear to Elohim to them, so that, he may know their state. He says, for I have no man like-minded who will naturally care for your state. Now, Apostle Paul was going around healing the sick. I believe he raised the dead even. He was doing many wonderful works. You have to imagine, you have to put yourself back in that situation. How many people you think may have been following that man around? Doing works like that. Healing people from everything, from every disease known to man. Even raising someone from the dead. How many people you think was actually following behind him? Had to be tons of them. But he said, for I have no man like-minded. No one was getting it. No one was getting it. He couldn't find no one like-minded who would naturally care for their state. He had to send Timotheus. Timotheus was just a young guy. But he was dear to Elohim. It's not no different today. It's not too many people who truly have a heart for Yah and for his people. And it's hard finding somebody that's like-minded who will naturally care for your state. Why? Even because of what Paul says. For all seek their own. Not the things which are Yeshua's Mashiach's. They seek their own. It's for vain glory. They want to pump themselves up. It's all about what they doing. It's all about having the biggest church, biggest house, fastest jet. They all seek their own, not the things of Yahushua Mashiach. But they knew Timotheus, they knew he was right. It says, but ye know the proof of him that as a son with the Father, he has served with me in the gospel. Him, therefore, I hope to send presently. It's a wondrous thing when folks get it. Let me have my next reader read verses 25 through 30.
Yet I suppose it necessary to send you to Epaphroditus, my brother and companion in labor and fellow soldier, but your messenger, and he that ministered to my wants. For he longed after you all, and was full of heaviness, because that ye had heard that he had been sick. For indeed he was sick nigh unto death. But Elohim had mercy on him, and not on him only, but on me also, lest I should have sorrow upon sorrow. I sent him therefore the more carefully, that when you see him again, you may rejoice, and that I may be the less sorrowful. Receive him therefore in the Adonai with all gladness, and hold such in reputation, because for the work of Messiah he was nigh unto death, not regarding his life, to supply your lack of service toward me.
Hallelujah. Okay, so, Apostle Paul said he also sent someone else. He sent a guy by the name of Epaphroditus. Epaphroditus, his name means devoted to Aphrodite. So we see he obviously was a Gentile, that was converted over to Yahushua Mashiach. It says, Apostle Paul calls him his brother and companion in labor and fellow soldier. And he says, he calls him their messenger. And said that he ministered to his wants. What is this word messenger? It's apostolos, number 652, speaking to a delegate, an ambassador for the gospel, one sent. See, this Epaphroditus was their pastor or their minister, their ambassador for the gospel that served their group, that served them. You know, and he had left to minister the needs of Apostle Paul. And while he was gone, he fell sick, even unto the death. You know, and Elohim had mercy on him, and Apostle Paul said, not only him only, but also on me, lest I should have sorrow upon sorrow. He was already sorrowful because he was locked up. He was being persecuted for Yahshua's namesake. He was in prison, and here it is, this guy comes to help him. Epaphroditus comes to help him, and in trying to help him, he gets sick and almost died. And, you know, he's thinking, man, you know, this guy come to help me, and he died helping me. You know, yeah, that's sorrow upon sorrow. So he's thanking Elohim, you know, that didn't happen. He's saying now he recognized that as the mercy of Yah. You know, and he says, receive him therefore in the Adonai with all gladness and hold such in reputation, because while he was definitely sick, says he longed after you all and was full of heaviness. You know, so he was homesick. He wanted to see all his loved ones. You know, and now here it is. You know, Yah had mercy and healed him, and now he's going to be coming back to you. You know, and the reason that he got sick is in verse 30. It says, because for the work of Mashiach he was not nigh unto death. But not regarding his life to supply your lack of service toward me. You know, so he was there, you know, serving Apostle Paul, you know, even to make up for the lack of their service. He was a good man. You know, and so Apostle Paul was sending them back home. Hallelujah. You know, but that's why he needed to send Timotheus as well, because he can't hear about how they're doing, because Epaphroditus wasn't coming back. He was going home. You know, so he sent Timotheus with him. You know, so that's what's going on in Philippians 2. That's all I have for you today. Pray it was a blessing.